Welcome to Richard Nwaji's YouTube channel. Yeah, thank you to all those that followed up on what happened around the African Cup of Nations, all those that are with me to follow up the updates. And today we're focusing on the top 11 of the African Cup of Nations. Yes, the African Cup of Nations was won by Senegal, and that's a very interesting game they had against the host nation, or talk about Morocco, in that game that took place, about some few hours ago, and it's still the big talk in town about what happened in the game. But on this particular video, we'll focus on what happened in that particular game. We'll focus about the top 11 players for the African Cup of Nations, where I've compiled a list of players who stood out and who deserve to be in the top 11. Now, don't forget to comment, subscribe, and of course, if you disagree with me, feel free to comment and tell me which players you believe should deserve or which player is not meant to be on this particular list. The African Cup of Nations was won by Senegal, Morocco were the runners up, and the Super Eagles of Nigeria defeated Egypt to come third in the African Cup of Nations. So get ready. We'll look at those players who stood out in different positions, and I call them the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. Let's go straight into it. Number one is Mendy. Yes, the Senegalese goalkeeper. Many would praise him and call him the man who proved himself well. Now, into the tournament, many didn't see the Senegalese Mendy and the former Chelsea man as a man who would definitely define the moment. But with everyone watching him play against the host nation Morocco last night, many would agree that Mendy stood out and proved himself. Now, Mendy himself made critical saves, and many would talk about the clean sheets he came into. He came into before he had before coming to the final game. Now, what made him stand out would be his last save in that last minute end. I talk about in full time where he saved the ball where Brahim Diaz almost scored. Of course, it was a penalty kick and he saved that. He saved that comfortably, and that definitely made sure that he deserves to be as the goalkeeper of the tournament. And of course, he stands at the top 11 players for the African Cup of Nations. Of course, in the goalkeeping position, we have Mendy there. And number two, of course, with the defensive level, we have Mendy as our goalkeeper. And number two, at the talk about the defense level, we have Hakimi. Yes, the Moroccan superstar, PSG superstar, is on the top 11. Of course, he's our defender, and he fills in one of the fullback roles. Now, Hakimi, proved himself very, very well in the tournament, and we definitely would all agree that Hakimi had a great tournament. Led the Moroccan team into the final. He was not just instrumental defensively, but he helped push the striking force for the Moroccan national team. So he sits in one of the fullbacks role. We have Hakimi in that position. And we also have in the fullback role, we have Sami Ajayi of Nigeria. And Sami Ajayi is one brilliant player who came out well in the African Cup of Nations. Now, he helped Nigeria keep several clean sheets where he stood out and was one of such players that played about six games for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. In all of the games, he proved himself well, scoring a goal for the Super Eagles of Nigeria in their first game in the African Cup of Nations. Sami Ajayi comfortably sits as one of our fullbacks in the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. And we also have Bassi as one of our fullback. One of our central defenders rather. Bassi proved himself well with incredible football, and everybody will agree that Bassi was that player that everybody loved to see what Bassi did. Now, Bassi sits in that position as one of the central defenders. Now, Bassi had a great game. I mean, we'll talk about the best of his game would have definitely be around the host nations, where Bassi made a lot of defensive tackles against Morocco, even though he had a yellow card, and definitely comfortably everybody would agree that Bassi deserves it to be in that particular position. And on the fullback role in the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament, we have Mazari, the man, and the Moroccan man, of course, and the man from Manchester United. Definitely, we all agree that he had a great tournament, and he led that Moroccan national team. He's one of those experienced players we had, and definitely everybody will talk about the fact that without him in the team, maybe they would have lacked some substance. And so he sits in the fullback role in the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. And still looking at the team of the tournament, let's move to the midfield role, where in the midfield role we have Diaz. Yes, Diaz, who won the Golden Boot, where we saw him score several goals, even though he didn't score that particular penalty kick, which got many talking. But everybody will conclude, and of course, I accept the fact that he was that great player that proved himself well for the American national team. Some call him the man who sits on the bench in Real Madrid, but came up to prove himself for the American national team, scoring several goals, even though he missed that key goal in the last minute. We all hail him for his great performance. And still dancing around the midfield in the Afcon Cup of Nations team of the tournament. Now we have the man the call I talk about. He is one great player who definitely we know what happened. He scored the key and decisive goal for Senegal, and he sits in the midfield for us. In our top, I call it 11 players. We're calling them the team of the tournament. Let's not call it 11, let's call it team of the tournament. Yeah, so he sits comfortably in that position. Definitely, many will talk about his great performance in the midfield role. So he sits in that role. Great goal, decisive goal for the host nation in the tournament. So Gay sits in that position. All right, I'm still looking at the team of the tournament. I talk about the African Cup of Nations. Gay was the player we just spoke about, and let's move and talk about another player who stood out, and of course he sits in the midfield position. We're talking about nobody else but Nigerian super Ademola Lookman. He had great assists at 4 Eagles of Nigeria, played great game, scored decisive goal for Nigeria in the penalty shootouts against the Pharaohs of Egypt. Without a doubt, Ademola Lookman deserves to sit in the midfield of the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. Many would speak around the fact that he had a great tournament. He proved himself well as that big man who deserves and of course always want to be part of the Nigerian national team, scoring several goals and also having the most assists. Ademola Lookman sits comfortably in the midfield of the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. And still looking at the team of the tournament, let's move to another player who did so well. And now we'll talk about the players who were in the striking position. We have Salah. Mohamed Salah, another great player who has proved himself well with great performance for the Egyptian team. The Egyptian team got to talk about semi-finals and played around the third place match against Nigeria. Although Salah missed the important penalty shootout when Nigerians were badly saved it, but many will say agree that Salah deserves to be in that position as one of the decisive men who did well in the striking position. So Salah sits comfortably for us as one of our strikers in the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. Salah as the striker, great performance from him. He led the Pharaohs of Egypt to the semi-finals. They lost to the winners of the tournament, Senegal, but he deserves to be in that position. And we have another player who deserves, of course, to be in the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. Nobody else but Mane. Mane will be one of the players I will put in our striking position. Mane had a great play, decisive player who helped the Senegalese team win the African Cup of Nations. Many will speak about him being good on the field and off the field. Many will also take their minds back to what happened the final game against Morocco, where we saw how Mane called back the Senegalese players to return to the field after a decisive VAR decision, or maybe a referee decision in the game against Morocco. Now, Mane also helped and played from the back to give several assists for his national team, Senegal. And no doubt, Mane deserves to be in that striking position in the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. And finally, we have the number 9 will be Victor Osimhen. Yeah, Osimhen sits comfortably in that position. Great performance from Nigerian super striker, and everybody talk about the fact that he was so good. Yes, he was so good, scoring several goals, captaining Super Eagles of Nigeria, and definitely he is one of those players that fall in as the strikers for the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament. So yeah, we have it, the African Cup of Nations team of the tournament, where we have Mendy, of course, as the goalkeeper position, Hakimi in the defensive role, Sami Ajayi, Bassi, Mazari of Manchester United, and of course Morocco. Ruben Diaz missed the penalty, but he's there. Gay is also there, while Lookman is available. We have Salah, Mane, and of course Victor Osimhen. All these players wrote their name in gold in the African Cup of Nations that just concluded in Morocco. Now tell me, what do you think? Which player do you think is missing from this list? Which player should not be on this list? Tell me, share your opinion. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel of Richard Unwaje. We give you all the biggest updates. We follow up the African Cup of Nations, and this is our African Cup of Nations series, where we'll have several videos where we'll break down several moments around the African Cup of Nations.